You're very welcome to episode 31 of the Scaling Your Business podcast. My guest today is Charlie Gleeson, the founder and CEO of Zipp Mobility. Charlie, you're very welcome.
Thanks for having me on, Rian.
Delighted to have you on. As usual, I want to go back to the early days with all our guests, no different with you. I'm going to make an assumption that you grew up around the Blackrock area.
I did indeed. Yeah, I grew up in kind of Foxrock, Cabinteely. Sorry, I lost the audio there for a sec.
All good.
Grew up in Foxrock, Cabinteely, and very normal childhood, I guess.
Charlie, you've said to me you grew up South Dublin. For our international guests, we won't get more specific. Do you have any standout memories or favorite memories from growing up?
Sure. Look, my childhood was fairly normal. I think, like a lot of kids, just playing a lot of football and stuff like that outside the house in the estate. Most of the kids were a few years older than me, which would probably stood to me in later life, I think. But yeah, like in terms of memories, I suppose I'd have to say, I spent a lot of time surfing in the summers in Connemara. We had a mobile home down there, and that was like a crazy passion of mine from age probably 7 to 15 or 16, and probably don't get out as much as I'd like to, but yeah, that would probably be, when I think of my childhood, I always think of surfing in Connemara.
Have you got a favorite place you've surfed, or have you stuck to Connemara?
I've surfed like in plenty of places around the world, and States and Thailand and a few others, Portugal and stuff like that. I think my favorite spot is a place called Dunlochan in Connemara in Ballyconneely. It's not the best waves. It's messy enough, but at the same time, it's just kind of it's symbolic. It just represents like peacefulness for me. Like I love getting out there. Beautiful,
beautiful. It's a great place in the world for anyone who hasn't visited. Who were your early influences as you were growing up?
I think I had a second cousin who I never told anyone he was my second cousin. He was always my first cousin. But he was Keith Gleeson. He was a rugby player. He was a flanker, played for Leinster, a few caps for Ireland. But growing up, I was always completely obsessed with him. And any chance I could get, I'd meet up with him to, toss the rugby ball. I think later on in my life, I think, my parents became a lot more kind of influential from a business perspective, my dad as well. So my dad, had, Gleeson's of Booterstown it's a pub in Booterstown. It's my family business. And, there's been a lot of innovation in that place over the last kind of, decade. He's played a big role in that. So, I probably as a stubborn teenager didn't really appreciate it. But yeah, like he's such a hard worker and always pushing for improvements and stuff like that. So probably later on in life, I think he's become more influential, I'd say.
Epic. You spent some time working in the pub that you've just mentioned, 5-6 years, if I'm not mistaken. Any lessons you learned there that still stand to you to today?
Absolutely, yeah. Like, I was there for, I think, the law would probably say I was there for 5 or 6 years, but I remember, New Year's Eve when I was about 15 in behind the bar pulling pints for people. Never did so well on tips because, like, a little child pretty much there pulling your pints. Probably shouldn't be saying that, but anyway, it was. I learned a huge amount in the pub. Similar to some countries have compulsory military training. I think everyone in Ireland should do a stint in a pub. I think it teaches
Agreed.
you a huge amount about communication skills, how to deal with high pressure situations, stuff like that. But in general, I think my communication skills would never be as they are today if I hadn't done that stint in a pub.
Agreed. Let's move on to business while also keeping it conversational. One thing in my research that I noticed, and I'm reading some of my notes here in case you look at me from looking to the side, the UK government fast-tracked any legal issues around e-scooters. You spoke about launching in this particular clip, you spoke about launching in 7 locations. I don't know if you've launched in those locations, but you said, unlike your competitors, which were mammoths in revenue predictions compared to you, you wanted to grow at a slower rate. Not many people come out and say that publicly. Why do you want to grow at a slower rate?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, we've got what's called a sustainable growth model. So for those people who don't know, Zipp is a Dublin-based scooter sharing company, like currently operating across the UK. We still intend to grow very quickly, but at a slower rate, yes, than our competitors. So when I came up with the idea for Zipp, it was like, I was looking at this massive industry that was happening on the West Coast of America, which was scooter sharing. I saw, say Bird, for example, the first scooter sharing company, they hit a valuation of $1 billion dollars after 2 months of launching. It was the quickest ever company to hit unicorn status. Phenomenal stuff. They grew into 100 markets in their first 12 months. Now, I kind of started looking at this and started looking into a lot of detail and quickly started picking up on a lot of the mistakes that these guys were making. Now, look, there was a lot of things they were doing right, but, long term, there were a few things that weren't really working out for them. Like, and one of these things, I can go into that maybe in a bit more detail later, but one of the things was that they were growing at a rate and that they were really pissing off local authorities. So they were either entering a market without asking for permission from the local authority, or they were just growing at a scale, like they were scaling 500, 600, 700 scooters into a market within a few weeks. And, just bombards the people, and it causes huge problems. So when we say we're going to grow at a slower rate, we mean like we're going to grow at a rate that we believe where we can still give the local authority the time they need to ensure that the scooter sharing rollout is successful. So it's like this tailored approach where you're actually putting the local authority first and not revenue and not the user necessarily. Like we see most scooter sharing companies would see the user as, like the only really stakeholder you need to be thinking about. Whereas we kind of see three. We see the user, we see the local authority, and we see other pedestrians, okay? Because if you can't keep all three of those groups happy, it's never going to work out for you. Because, the local authorities are the gatekeepers to win business. Like we need to win tenders with local authorities. We need to keep them happy. We need to keep the general public happy, because if we don't keep them happy, they complain to the council under pressure to get rid of the scooter sharing operation. So there's kind of and obviously you need to keep the user happy as well. So like putting kind of this council centric approach, or this idea that, the council is the gatekeeper to business, keep them happy and treat them as a customer. So yeah, that's kind of the idea behind the sustainable growth. Now, if relative to the industry, it's slower levels of growth. But if you didn't know anything about the industry, you'd be like, Jesus, Zipp are, up and running for 12 months and they're already in Ireland, the UK, Poland, Portugal, blah, blah. So, we're still growing, and there's no question about that. It's just a slightly slower rate.
Epic. And a quote comes to mind when I think of the other unicorns that you've mentioned. It's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, but I think you flipped that on its head and you've gone and want to work closely with the authorities so that you don't annoy anyone and you can grow at a proper rate. I like it. I got to give congrats to you on your LinkedIn. One of your LinkedIn posts, recent one, was named Founder of the Year at the 2021 NovaUCD Innovation Awards. Others like Bobby Healy and Brian Caulfield have won awards from, UCD or NovaUCD. How does that make you feel that you're up there with a list like that?
That sounds very flattering. Thank you very much. I don't, not that I don't appreciate it. Okay. Like I think those awards are great. I think they should be celebrated. I haven't won many awards in my life, so always appreciate any kind of recognition like that. But at the same time, I think it's just credit to the team around me. Like, I founded Zipp, and I'm the CEO of Zipp, but at the same time, like we've got an amazing team around us, and that's what I'm really proud of. When we win awards like that, it's recognition of the work that the Zipp team is doing, not the work that Charlie Gleeson is doing. So I think that's just really important to note. So it's not this kind of self-centered pat Charlie on the back. It's kind of like we got a hamper for that, and I remember we brought it down and everyone tore into it. Like it's not Charlie's hamper, it's Zipp's hamper,
yeah.
So no, it's great. It's great to get the recognition for the company. It's great for the profile of the company. Like NovaUCD are obviously incredible and well regarded. But yeah, it's a team award. They're all team awards.
Respect. When I think of Charlie, I think of one word: patience. How important is patience, especially in the sector you're in?
Yeah, patience is so important. Like it's a general tip that I'd have for any aspiring entrepreneurs is to be patient. But like we were launching, like take it back a couple of years, like Zipp, when we came up with the idea for Zipp, it was like, okay, we want to launch a scooter sharing company in a market where there's multiple billion-dollar companies and scooters are illegal in Ireland and the UK, the markets we were initially going after. So patience was always going to be really, really important for us. It was always going to be a marathon, not a sprint. From business plan to first pound generated in revenue was 625 days. So there was a lot there that had to go in, but we used the time really, really well. We used the time to, research the market, really come up with an approach that's different to our competitors, which we've managed to do. And And yeah, like, no time wasted, but at the same time, yeah, patience, I think for any startup, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, is always going to be really important. Great things don't happen quickly. Like, there's a lot of graft, a lot of hard work, and yeah, it's always going to be a bit of a marathon trying to get a business off the ground.
You sound passionate about the business, and I'm sure you've got to be to start a business. But what drives you?
It's a good question. Impact. I think that is the biggest driver. Like, in the last 4 months, we've had 60,000 odd journeys, and the data would show that around 25 to 35% of those journeys replace car journeys, and cars would have been taken if that scooter sharing option wasn't there. So, we're looking at kind of 15,000 odd car journeys that have been replaced so far in just such a small space of time. And I think from an environmental perspective, that's great. Also, just like there's this mad feeling when you launch a scooter sharing company in a market, just understanding that we're putting these scooters out tomorrow, and the way people move in this market or this city is going to change forever. Like, people are going to commute via this scooter. It's going to become like a part of their life. So like, yeah, I think impact is huge. I think, I love running the business. I'm absolutely passionate about that. I love going in every day. I love, the team that we've built around us. And I love this idea of just continuing to grow, continuing to improve. There's a lot of other scooter sharing companies. So a lot of, what we're doing comes down to strategy and execution and just keeping it so tight. And that's what we need to do. That's what we need to focus on. And that's going to be the goal for the foreseeable.
Some of the other business owners who have had the pleasure of speaking to over the last couple of weeks, their business was born from a problem they went through for months or weeks or years, and they decided to solve it. Never intended for it to become as big as it did. One particular guy went into a coffee shop and bought the same coffee from a coffee shop. Then he started texting the other coffee shop, and then it built it into an app.
Luke.
Yes, I didn't want to mention him because I know he owns Bolt, and I know that is somewhat of a competitor.
I know Luke well. He's a great guy.
Okay,
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
Is there a similar story for yourself?
I not necessarily. Like, I had the personal frustration, of course, of public transport in Dublin. I think everyone that goes through a period of their life without a car in Dublin will appreciate, the public transport is not very connected here in Dublin. I live in, Dublin suburb, and I have to walk around 3-4 kilometers to the nearest bus stop to get to the N11 and get on the bus. So that was always frustrating. As soon as I could get a car, I did, because, it was just, you can't be walking 7 kilometers every day. Well, you can, but it's, driving's easier. So, that understanding of public transport is really disconnected in Ireland was a starting point. So yeah, like when I saw this business, it definitely resonated with me for sure. Like in the States, and thought it'd be a great idea to bring it here to Ireland. I thought it was a no-brainer. The demand was massive in the States compared to even that of bike sharing. So like that was one of the really interesting things. It was like, there was like 10x demand for scooter sharing than that of bike sharing. So I knew it was going to be, big here, but at the same time, I definitely didn't expect it to. My ambition at the start wasn't as high as it was here, or as it is now. So, when I started Zipp, the ambition was to launch scooter sharing service in Dublin. And that was it. And it was just like, okay, let's get onto a university in Ireland. The plan was to, get onto a university campus or multiple university campuses. So we'd have these beachheads so that when legislation changed, we'd be able to, launch our service in Dublin City. And then it kind of said, well, why not the rest of Ireland? Okay. And then it was like, hey, we're going to be the Irish scooter sharing company. That's the plan. And then, COVID struck, this and that. The UK market was opening up, and there was a big pivot. There was a big pivot towards, okay, we need to change our strategy from Irish universities to UK cities. We kind of mixed around our business plan a little bit. We had a few investors lined up. We pitched them the new idea, and they loved it. All got on board. We had everything ready to go. And within, 3 weeks, we had, 300K, and we had a team of people that were tendering for licenses in the UK. So it was a really, really quick turnaround. Anyway, long story short, I suppose once we started winning licenses in the UK, we were technically like a born global company. We were a company operating from Dublin, operating in international markets. And when that happened, our ambition just skyrocketed. It was like, okay, if we can do this in the UK, there's no reason why we can't do it anywhere else in Europe. So if we had started out in Dublin, I think it would have been much harder to get that leap into international markets. But now we're fearless when it comes to international markets, and we're really excited to grow into mainland Europe this year.
I know you've spoke internationally there, but one of the things I noticed was that you're working with the Irish guide dogs for the blind. Can you talk to me about how that came about?
Yeah, it's very cool. Like, like we've kind of been through the ring of the UK. Like we know what the crack is with tenders and the pain points for scooter sharing companies. We have a lot of experience now, and one thing that we found to be really important was building up a good relationship with the RNIB and the blind groups in the UK, because they're disproportionately affected by poorly parked electric scooters. Okay, so again, this is something that we do slightly differently. If you have seen scooter sharing schemes across Europe or across anywhere in the world,
Yep.
generally scooter operators allow their users to pick up their scooters and drop them off anywhere. So this is great from the user's perspective because they can go anywhere they want, but it's terrible for other vulnerable road users or other pedestrians, particularly elderly people or people with visual impairments, because they cause trip hazards, and disproportionately they're more affected if the footpath's being blocked. So what we've firstly done is we have a system where you must start and end your journey from parking bays. So we've got painted parking bays all over every city that we operate in, so that users have to start and end their journey there. And we use GPS technology to ensure that the scooters are actually parked in those bays. So that's the first thing that we have. And the reason we've teamed up with the guide dogs was because, okay, guide dogs aren't trained to navigate around electric scooters. Scooters are going to be legalized here in Ireland, and they're going to be all over the place. Yes, they'll be parked appropriately. Still, they're going to be, in public space. So we said, okay, let's get ahead of the curve. Let's train every single guide dog in Ireland to navigate around a Zipp electric scooter. So we've, donated scooters up to the guide dogs, and they've spent, every single guide dog in Ireland now is trained to navigate around a Zipp electric scooter, or will be in the next couple of months. So that training is going on now. So, it's just preemptive. It means that when we launch, we've already got buy-in from one of these communities. Now, there's going to be so many other stakeholders that we need to engage with and work with before we launch in the market. But it all comes back to our mobility done right approach. We're here to stay. We're not here to, get a few quid and leave. We want to create long-term relationships with every local authority we're working with.
You're a smart man. You're a smart man. What do you like to do outside of work?
I love to go for a few pints. I love, a bit of socializing and stuff like that. I love to surf when I can. That's the thing I'm trying to do more and more. Obviously, I'm in a cast at the moment, so that's going to be a few weeks. But just love getting outside. I think, I think more than ever, people are just stuck inside, and it just can't be more important for your mental health to just get out as much as you can. Obviously limited at the moment, but yeah, I'd say, surfing, bit of sport, gym, and socializing would be the main ones.
I'm blown away with how fast you've grown, but also how smart's the wrong word to use. When I mentioned the award, you didn't bounce it back off yourself. You kind of accepted it, but also said that it's not all me. And you're working with stakeholders. You've got a really intelligent approach. Don't want to discredit that, but I do want to ask, have you got any mentors or guides that you go to help?
Loads. I think our mentors have kind of evolved in the different stages of our business. The mentors that we had, they don't all last the whole way through your business, and we're still picking up some amazing mentors now. And I think that's always going to be the case. I've got kind of a group of people that I would meet with quite regularly, separately, to discuss any kind of, like, some of them are investors, some of them aren't, but to discuss any issues that are kind of pressing, or difficulties I might be having, internally on the team, or, we scaled very quickly, and how to put a bit of structure on the team and manage, going from a 1 to 20 person team and stuff like that. So I've always had great people around me to help me, which is excellent. Some are former employers and stuff like that. So definitely so important to be able to go to different people with different sets of expertise. We've got advisors that are industry experts, that are thought leaders in the micromobility industry, some that are just finance gurus, and some that are just, have just, run many businesses and are serial entrepreneurs. So I think it's really, really important to build that network around you at the start, and I always kind of laugh about how for the first, 12 months when I was trying to get Zipp off the ground, I'd always talk about us, and everyone would ask, who is us? Like, it's just you. But like, in my head, there was a massive team. There was a lot of team of, advisors, people from NovaUCD or whoever it might have been, because in my head, they were all, in their eyes, they were just, picking up the phone once a month. But that was the team that I was kind of, representing back then. Yeah. Or felt like I was representing.
Yeah. What's your favorite aspect of being an entrepreneur?
It's a tough one. I think there's a lot of it. I think I love the idea of coming up with a business and a strategy, on paper, how can we win? And then implementing it and seeing that come to fruition. Like, I think just the whole process of actually seeing a business come to fruition, you get emotional. Like it's great. And it's just, I think we're only getting started, but I think that just the whole idea of having an idea and just implementing it. And I'm not talking about Zipp in general. I'm talking about small different bits of entrepreneurship that someone brings up at a group meeting and we go, let's do it. Yeah, take that and run with it. And just seeing that come out in real life. It's just like, the exposure that we're all getting is just incredible. And everyone's learning it, so much, so quickly. And it's great. Like, it's really, really, it's so, it's just so fun.
No, I get you. I think one of the things you're getting at is, and I was chatting to a bloke called Dave Sherry. He's Irish, but he's in Amsterdam at the moment, yesterday. And he says that, and we both agree that it was the process that we enjoy most about owning a business or building a business. The ups, the downs, the challenges, the pivots, and you referenced it, the entrepreneurship as well.
Sorry, go on.
Go on. No, go on.
Yeah, like it's great. Like, the process is excellent. And don't get me wrong, the process is absolutely traumatizing of trying to get a startup off the ground. Like, it's difficult. It's that I just can't, that's what they say, parenting and startups are the two hardest things you'll do. But, I've never done the parenting side, but I can tell you that if parenting is anything like this, I don't know if I want to go down that route. But I'm sure the fulfillment element is even sweeter. But no, look, I think, it's been an incredible process so far. It's really tough, which makes it even more fulfilling when things start to come off.
3 final questions for you, Charlie. First one is, where's the first place you're traveling to when borders open again?
Probably, I can't say, but the markets that we're launching in Poland and Portugal. So that'll be the first places we're going.
I'm going to take a wild guess that you're in an apartment at the moment.
I am. I'm in a little small apartment in Rathmines.
Nice. If that was to burn down, and I don't know if you've got a girlfriend or a dog or a cat, but let's say everything is safe, what one thing would you want to take with you from the apartment?
My laptop. 100%. Yeah.
Nice. Final question. I want you to imagine it's the end of the decade, so it's 2030, and you're looking back on the last 10 years. What would you hope to have achieved within that span?
At the end of this decade?
Yes. So imagine it's now 2030 and you're looking back. What would you like to be looking back on and going, we launched there, we did that. I don't know if it is an exit. I don't know if you can even say that, but what would you like to have achieved?
Again, it kind of comes back to impact. Like from the business perspective, I would hope, I think that, Zipp will be replacing tens of millions of car journeys per year. I think we're going to have hundreds of staff operating all across Europe and probably in America. I'd say 3 continents. Maybe we will have exited by then. I think there's going to be consolidation in the market, and the way we're going, I think that's definitely going to be an option down the line.
Amazing. I want to thank you for your time today, and I hope that in 2030 all those things do come true.
Well, thank you very much, Rian. I really appreciate it.